Hey, what's up? This is Harry Wagner from Harry's Situations, and we are here today with my friend Grant Chapman and his bitchin' square body Chevy Stepside. So this truck is pretty rad. There are a lot of interest in square bodies right now, and Stepsides, I think in particular, are unique. How did you end up with this truck?
Well, I guess really, I've kind of wanted a Stepside Chevy. Me and my dad, I don't know, my dad turned me on to him when I was younger, and I kind of always wanted one since I was a kid. And so when I was 16, I had the ad ready for my dad. It was like, hey dad, I want this truck. And it just happened to be a white Chevy truck like this, Stepside, and I basically like, here, I want to buy it. And he's like, nope, unreliable, can't get it. So my dreams got put off for a while. Then I was graduating college and basically was like, okay, now's the time and I'm going to buy it. And you know what? Like, my dad was totally right, totally unreliable.
You do a great job of hitting this sweet spot between having a full-size truck that's still full-bodied, but you wheel it hard, and how do you keep from smashing it up?
My wife. She's usually in the passenger seat telling me which way to go. So
okay.
When I don't go with her, I generally end up getting a little bit more body damage.
Ah, well, she's not out here today. Hopefully the truck comes back in one piece.
Absolutely.
And you did a ton of wheeling this summer. So you said you went to the Rubicon, you went to Slick Rock. Where else did you wheel this summer?
Yeah, we did a bunch of local trails here in Reno. I did Bud Canyon, did Secret Canyon. Yeah, did the Rubicon a couple times. I was planning to do Fordyce, but that one slipped off the map. And then I did Slick Rock this year.
This video has been brought to you by Nitto Tire USA. I not only run Nittos on my Jeep, but also on my Ram tow rig, on my big Ford on 40s. Nitto makes tires in a variety of sizes and different applications for everything from drift cars to side-by-sides. Check out all their offerings at nittotire.com. One of the things you recently changed on your truck, so backstory here, I met Grant through my friend Ned Bacon. Ned saw your truck at Summit Racing years ago and was like, hey, you gotta find this guy and do a feature on this truck. This thing is super bitchin'. And then I found you on social media through Battleborn Wheels. I know you're friends with those guys.
Oh yeah.
You're running their wheels, their bead locks on your truck to this day.
Yeah.
And you know, we shot photos and did a feature on it, but back then it was on 38s. It had leaf springs, I think 52-inch springs in the front and 56s in the back. Is that right?
Total junkyard Chevy stuff, like 52-inch springs from the rear put in the front, and then 56s from a 3/4 ton on the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
But now you're linked.
Yes. And don't get me wrong, like 52, 56 setup, epic, did great, budget friendly. Like I made it a lot of places I probably shouldn't have made it. And now on the coilovers, I kind of was like, okay, like I need new tires. Things are starting to rip off, like, let's just do it. And so I kind of tackled it this winter and it came out like this, and oh, what a night and day difference.
And now I'm surprised, so you have your own fab shop, CNA Fabrication,
yes,
but you did all this in the garage at home, right? When you did this conversion?
Yes, and the idea was that I had a lot of stuff going on at the shop, and if my truck was there also getting worked on, my wife would never see me. So I was like, oh, if I keep it in the garage, that way I can sneak out, do a couple hours here and there, work on it. And it totally worked out, but yeah, I mean, not having a lift, crawling around the floor, like, don't get me wrong, I've definitely missed that lift, like having that thing. But yeah, all in the garage.
And now tell us about the rest of the drivetrain. What do you have under the hood?
So I have a Chevy Small Block stroked out to a 383, fuel injected. It's got a little cam in it. And then I got an NV4500 from the junkyard from Pick and Pull. I got it for $100.
What?
Yeah, and then I pulled a doubler, 203, 205 doubler, found it on Craigslist, rebuilt it, swapped out the input, and ran that. And then Tom Woods drive shafts, 1350 double carbon front and rear.
And then the front axle's a Dana 60.
Yes, oh yeah, so the front axle, Dana 60. I found it on Craigslist. It actually happened to be one of my co-workers that I bought it from, so he made me a pretty good deal back in the day. I mean, it was still $1,000, but nowadays
that is a good
for
deal.
A Chevy Kingpin 60 is insane. And then 14-bolt, half-off day Pick and Pull. So
all right.
A lot of it's from the junkyard.
And then what are you running for lockers in there? Stock shafts or?
I have 35 spline chromo shafts from East Coast Gear Supply. I have an ARB front locker with 513s. In the rear, I have 513s. I think it's all East Coast Gear Supply gears. And then I got the Detroit locker from Summit.
And I know when you linked your truck, you put it on 40-inch Nitto Trail Grapplers.
Absolutely.
So this video is actually brought to you by Nitto. I run them on all my rigs, and I know you were running different tires before. What do you think of the tires?
I couldn't be more impressed. Honestly, like, you know, I always hear people talking about Nittos, and I always see them, and I always ask people how they liked them, but really, like, from the get-go, I threw them on and they hooked up great out of the gate. Usually you kind of have to break them in for a little bit to where I start grabbing pretty good, but they've been awesome right off the bat.
No, I think in particularly, I'm not sure exactly what your truck weighs, but I know on my full-size truck, Nittos have bomb-proof sidewalls too. I really like them on a full-size rig, or my Ram, you know, that weighs 11,000 pounds. I really think they handle the weight a lot better than some other tires that I've run in the past.
Oh yeah.
What condition was the truck in when you got it?
So it's a funny story. I mean, when I bought it, is probably a high schooler's wet dream. Like, it was Mickey Thompson 39-inch tires, 15-inch wheels, 8-inch lift. The thing was humongous, but it of course had Dana 44 front, 10-bolt rear, and it drove like garbage. I finally got it running, and it was just terrible on the street. It was just the old push-pull steering on the old style Chevys, if you're familiar, like, man, the thing was all over the road. And like, the other thing was, when I first bought it, the motor was knocking, so I had to build the motor like right off the bat. And
did you do the stroker immediately, or did you just put it in like a small block?
Immediately. So I took the motor and immediately built the small block, or the stroker.
Right. Still a small block, but yeah, 383, not a 350.
And really, like, I didn't have a ton of mechanical experience before this. I had worked on like smaller things, motorcycles, whatnot, but I just kind of dove headfirst into this, and kind of here I am.
Well, you've done an awesome job. That's pretty impressive, and I think it says a lot that you're, you know, not afraid to, not shying away. So, and I think you've really built an awesome truck for putting in a bunch of sweat equity, but using junkyard parts like you haven't. There's nothing super exotic. Someone else could replicate this if they wanted to put in the hard work.
Absolutely.
And it works really good for, especially for the money you have invested.
Yeah.
So now with the Link setup, how does that compare to the leaf springs? What do you like about one versus the other? What are the advantages and disadvantages of changing from leaves to links for those that are considering doing it?
The leaves are way bumpier. Trying to go over rocks, you're kind of like rolling over stuff, and it's just boom, you're kind of just banging through the trail, just kind of like hopping over stuff. The coilovers, you're just kind of cruising through it, and the coilovers just kind of do their thing. The biggest thing I noticed really is, oh, there's a big hole, and the coilover just, oh, there it is, drops out, you know, 14 inches, and your cab's still level. So I noticed a lot of stuff I don't pitch the whole rig into anymore, and I just kind of like, it kind of floats pretty level through a lot of obstacles, where before it was all over the place.
And did you design your own system, or did you buy one as far as the Link system goes?
I did, and so I looked at a lot of, like, the off-road design was one of the main kits for the Chevy square bodies, and I was pretty dead set on going with it. But the thing is, I run the tie rod. I've been running the WFO arms with the tie rod behind the axle, and over the years, it's saved me so much time of just bumping into stuff, and like in a full size, really can't see much, kind of driving by braille. So I'd just be hammering tie rod after tie rod. So I was like, you know what? I want to keep it in the back. So what do I have to do? And Off-Road Design's kit didn't happen to work out for me. So I designed my own kit in CAD, and cut it out with the plasma, made it, you know, stuck it all together in my garage, and still have the tie rod behind the axle and everything like that. And yeah, it turned out much better than I was expecting.
And you're running air bumps on that now, right?
Yep, King air bumps.
Okay. And how big are the shocks?
They are 2.5 by 14s. They sit at about, I put them at 5 inches ride height. So I have, you know, 5 up and then 8 down, or 9 down. Yeah, 9 down.
Okay. And what sort of spring rates are you running in the front?
Running 250 over 250. I think it's pretty much perfect. I had the guys at Filthy Motorsports, I kind of told them about my package, and sight unseen, they kind of just guessed at it. They're like, hey, we can swap these springs out if it doesn't sit right, and right out the gate, it kind of sat perfect.
So there you go, folks. Call Filthy Motorsports and tell them about your package. So one of the things you mentioned, the oil pan, one of the things I think packaging with leaf springs is leaf springs wrap. They've got a shackle so things move in the wheel well. And once you have links, right, I mean, you can kind of set things up and you don't have those wrap issues or a lot of the movement you have.
No, that's a great point. So on the old setup on leaf springs, I had 38s, And I knew if I went to 40s, and those, you know, everybody's running 40s, I have to run 40s. So, you know, went to 40s, and it was like, there's no way that I could fit 40s in here without it going into the firewall or ripping the fenders off. So pretty much I was like, okay, go into links, and this way I can control the articulation up and down, and it'll go in its own little zone. So yeah, it is way better. It's way more away from the firewall. Before, the leaf springs they would tuck backwards, or the wheels would tuck backwards a lot into the firewall. Now they kind of go forward. So it's way better than before.
How long are the links?
38 inches long. I tried to make them, I think one's like 38, one's like 38 and 3/4, but I basically made it so that I could run one spare.
Oh, smart.
Yeah.
And what are they constructed out of? Is it like 2-inch or?
2-inch quarter wall, DOM.
Okay.
Welded in inserts and all that, but.
1.25 Heims, or what are you running for rod ends?
I'm running Johnny joints, 1.25 Johnny joints. I was gonna do rod ends, but the Johnny joints they have a little bit better road manners, I would say, maybe.
Yeah, I would
agree.
With
a little bit of like the Teflon inserts and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran those, and then I am running FK rod ends on the track bar.
Okay. Cool.
Still running the junkyard one. That's next. Next, obviously, is going to be linking the rear. But I mean, it works great just how it is. So I'm kind of like, I don't want to touch it until I really need to.
Well, and I saw you just built some really bitchin' spring hangers for the back. So
yeah, and so after running the stock hangers for long enough, it had showed I've been bashing it on rocks, and then actually every time I was flexing, because you get a lot of frame flex out of these Chevys, it was starting to rip the mount out. So like the actual mount itself was all twisted. So I was like, okay, I kind of have to take care of that before I start going wheeling again. So made some custom spring hangers.
Okay, cool. People can get those from you if they want a set?
Yeah. CNA Fabrication.
All right, nice. And are you running a sway bar on the front now with the coilovers, or? So
no sway bars. Basically, my train of thought was, let's put it on the spring, see how it does, and if it has excessive body roll, then I'll put a sway bar on it. Drove it on the street and didn't need one, so here we are. And
those rear leaves kind of have a lot of sway resistance, so they probably help in that regard.
Yeah, and they're from a 3/4 ton truck, so I mean, they're not like heavy springs, but they're definitely not light springs.
Have you weighed the truck?
I haven't.
Yeah.
But I ballpark, it's probably around 6,000 pounds.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. You had mentioned that the Chevy push-pull steering that four-wheel drives came from was terrible, and those that aren't familiar with it, you know, you have your leaf springs, and basically the drag link, instead of going to the passenger side knuckle, it went from the box to the driver's side knuckle. So it's super short, and then you lift them like this thing when it was a show truck, and the thing is super steep. You don't really have any, as the suspension articulates, it's turning the wheel because that length is changing.
It definitely, so you get way more mechanical advantage by going to the other side. So first you have this like pretty wimpy steering that's trying to push forward and backwards to move the whole tires back and forth. And when you flex it out to one side, the arm is so short that when it goes, the whole thing steers one way, and that's where you're going, is that way. So yeah, right off the bat, I was like, okay, I got to do crossover, and then I wanted to go high steer, and then I found the WFO arms and put it behind the axle, and game changer for me, at least.
And are you using Hydro Assist?
Yeah, so I have a Hydro Assist, and I think it's the 1 3/4 inch ram, 8 inches limited down to 5 inches because it's in the back. It works pretty well. I'm having some slight issues, and I think it's probably the ram. I think it's bleeding over to the other side. So you'll notice sometimes I get kind of some like stuck steering, but I think I kind of blew out the ram at some point, so.
And what box and pump are you using?
All PSC stuff. So PSC box, PSC ram, PSC power steering pump. It gets expensive very quickly.
That's for sure. No matter what you do, you're gonna have an empty wallet.
So you got to figure out where you want to spend the money first, right? Like we're gonna buy a nice locker. That's the first big one. And then like, okay, I'll junkyard all the rest of the stuff.
You mentioned potentially linking the rear. Do you have any other big upgrades planned in the future?
Well, I guess the linked rear is probably the biggest one. I want to do an ARB in the rear, get rid of the Detroit, and then I want to link the rear, and I'm kind of back and forth on whether or not I want to go trailing arms or just double triangulated. So, I mean, it's a 118-inch wheelbase, so I'm kind of thinking I could get away with the trailing arm. It's just kind of figuring out where I can put the shocks.
Sure. Yeah. Now you're getting into the bed.
Yeah.
And I mean, use I think matters too. You know, is this thing going to be a rock crawler? Do you want to go fast in it?
Yeah, it's definitely more rock crawler. But you know, there's times when you want to go fast.
Sure, yeah. No, and especially you get those front coilovers, right? And you get a little taste of that. And now, it'd be nice to do the rear too.
Yeah, like leaf springs, good comparison of leaf springs versus coilovers coming out of the Rubicon. took me forever on leaf springs.
Yeah, all those cobbled rocks.
Yeah, and like you can cruise through, but on the coilovers, it was like, yep, cruising through it. Like it was night and day. It was crazy.
You mentioned wanting to pull out the Detroit and put an ARB in the rear. Why would you do that?
Basically, I try to do a lot of street driving. I want to save the tires. The Detroit, when you're on the street, if you've heard of Detroit at any time, you definitely have heard it before. It sounds like your gears are exploding when they lock up and unbind. So I definitely go through tires a little quicker just because it's that locker's always dragging that tire around. So I like doing street driving. Before I put it on 40s, I pretty much street drove. I try to daily drive it, and I still daily drive it, but I don't want to put the doors back on. So I do 70, 75 on the freeway with 40-inch tires and coilovers.
I think that's really impressive too. And we're lucky to live in Reno where you have so much access to good wheeling everywhere around you.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I just bought a trailer, so I finally got a big flatbed trailer, but I still just love driving to the trails. Because then I don't want to have to go stop one point and then go get to the other point and then go pick up your trailer, that kind of thing.
No, and a lot of trails around here, you mentioned Slick Rock, definitely the Rubicon, Ford Ice, you go in at a different place than you come out.
Yeah.
And like going up Highway 4 to Slick Rock, I don't think I would want a trailer up that road anyway.
No, and I've seen some people do it, and that's terrifying.
Yeah, that's scarier than anything we do in the rocks.
Yeah. Oh man.
Well, Grant, you have an awesome truck. I think it's rad that you've kept the body intact and you're still wheeling hard trails, driving to and from the trails. Really appreciate you coming out here and telling us more about it.
Absolutely, thank you.
So that's it for Hairy Situations. Did we forget anything about Grant's truck that you wanted to know? Comment below and let us know. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
Thanks for watching Driving Line. If you guys like this video, consider subscribing to our channel so you'll never miss any of the content we create here. Whether you're into trucks, Jeeps, imports, domestic vehicles, or anything in between, we are here to fuel your passion. So hit that subscribe button and we'll see you guys next time.